Welcome to the Empire Cinema in Leicester Square in London and the world premiere of Michael Jackson, The Life of an Icon. I'm going to say that again. Welcome to the Empire Cinema in Leicester Square in London town for the world premiere of Michael Jackson, The Life of an Icon. Please welcome to the stage the producer of the film, Mr. David Gest.
Welcome. I'm so glad all of you could make it here tonight. And I'd like you to meet some very close friends of mine. First, I'd like to introduce you to a woman who's like my other sister, Miss Rebbie Jackson. Looking fine, so beautiful. Look at her, Rebbie Jackson, everybody. My other brother growing up, we've been best friends for over 40 years, Mr. Tito Jackson. Hey, Tito.
Hi, David.
Ladies and gentlemen, the two greatest lawyers I've ever met in my life. They proved to the world that Michael Jackson was innocent of all charges, and against every odds, they proved to the world this is a one and only greatest entertainer who never did anything wrong. Please welcome Susan Yu and Thomas Mesereau. They all came from LA. Thanks. Okay, we're live, so let me start with asking when you were, as the oldest, helping to raise these children because your mother was working, did you think Michael had a special talent as a kid?
Yes, I did.
And what made you feel that he had a special talent?
Just watching him, he was a very rambunctious person. He was also very mischievous. He loved to pull pranks, but he was also a very spontaneous person. He would perform with the rest of the brothers, but he would always think of something different to do at the last minute, and you never knew what he was going to do. He'd throw it on you and hit you with it during the rehearsal.
That's the kind of guy he was. Now, Tito, he had a candy store, right?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that candy store, because he was a businessman very early on.
Well, when we were kids, there was another kid in the neighborhood who had a candy store by the name of Charles, and we used to always go there prior to class and buy candy. And Michael said, when I get older, I'm going to have one of these too. Mm-hmm. So he had put together candy to sell to his brothers and his closest friends, and he didn't have customers, so what Michael would do, if he bought a candy bar for 25 cents, he would sell it for a nickel just so he could have customers. He didn't mind not making money. He just wanted customers.
He always had a good heart, that's for sure.
He wanted to be in business, that's correct.
Tom and Susan, when you took Michael on as a client, did anybody say this is going to be a very, very hard case to win? Or did you feel right from the beginning you could show the world?
One of my closest friends told me, don't ever take the case. You can't win it. He's been and if he gets convicted, it's going to define the rest of your life and career. Everywhere you go in the world, they'll say he's the one that sent Michael Jackson to prison. And Susan and I talked about it, and we decided we're in there.
Well, from my perspective, you know, many criminal cases, on paper, clients can look really, really bad. If I'm a prosecutor, I can make anybody look terrible. But the focus for us was to really get to know Michael. That mattered more than the the amount of evidence we had in the case. It was just way too much to handle. But for us, the focus was to Michael and getting to know him, and quickly we realized there was no doubt that he was innocent.
That's fantastic. Tom, let me ask you, what was the turning point? What was the turning point for you and you think the world in that trial?
Well, our approach was to be aggressive from the opening bell. Their first witness was Martin Bashir. They thought he was going to be a good witness.
Ooh, we got a lot of boos. Let's hear it. Come on. Boo!
And he was a disaster for the prosecution. He refused to answer questions. He hid behind his attorney who was in court. He claimed journalism privilege. And we just kept going. I just kept asking him questions about Michael Jackson. Questions like, isn't it true he told you repeatedly he would never hurt a child under any circumstances, and he wouldn't answer the questions? And I would repeat it again and again. And I think it was a disastrous way for them to start their case.
And I'll tell you something. One of the fans asked a question of me. What did you find so amazing when you did the research for this? Is that they sent 70 police cars, 70, not even for the Manson murders of Sharon Tate, did they send 70 police cars to the house where she was killed in. And what did they find? They found Playboy, which was a men's magazine, Penthouse, which was a men's magazine, no child porn, no pictures of nude kids, nothing. This man was such a bigot. I mean, I've never seen a man that's a bigger bigot than Mr. Tom Sneddon. And he thought because Michael Jackson, and it's true, because Michael Jackson was black, he wanted to take him down. And I think that was really such a terrible thing, because it doesn't matter what color, race you are, we're all people and we all live together. That's right.
I'd like to add one thing about the various magazines that I think a lot of people don't know about, and that is Michael received so many books and magazines from all over the world. And a lot of the so-called Playboy magazines were magazines that he received from others, not that he went out and bought them. And so he had a huge library of all sorts of books, classical to children's books. I mean, he had a library that was bigger than a public library. And in addition to 70 sheriffs who went out to get Michael, the amount of evidence we had in this case was bigger than any huge federal case you can even get. And for us, handling Michael's case was handling like 100 cases all at once. Documentary evidence, audio, video, and the live witnesses. We prepared for over 500 witnesses in that case. It was really, really monumental. And that's what it took for the entire Santa Barbara County to go after Michael. And they only proved that they were wrong and they were outrageous in going after somebody as innocent as Michael. And one thing I have to say about Michael, and I'll end quickly, is that quite frankly, no question he was a big name and still is. Superstar, yes. Who's bigger than Michael? No question. Who's more talented and gifted than Michael? Probably nobody. But you know why he was so special? Aside from all that, underneath it all, he was so decent. And so modest and humble. And a lot of celebrities you come across, they suffer from narcissism. They think they're entitled to everything. Or there are a lot of people, not just celebrities, but people with money, fame, or perceived money and fame. It's unfortunate people are that way, but you know, I wouldn't be sitting here and talking to you if Michael was a horrible person. Who cares if he was famous and big? If he was a jerk, not a nice person, but he really was a really, really nice, decent person.
You're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Rebbie, he produced your first hit record, Centipede. What was it like working with Michael in the studio?
It was an experience and a half. One of the things that was interesting about recording Centipede was that I learned the song while I was on the set. And periodically throughout recording it, I would forget the lyrics. He didn't care. He wanted the feeling and the attitude. And then, of course, another thing that was interesting is that right during that time was the time when they were planning the Thriller tour. And so as a result, there were all kind of promotional men and people that would come to the studio. So he was trying to produce me while that was taking place, and that was a big circus. But the one thing I remember that was really interesting about Centipede is when he put the song on, and he played it in what he called the biscuits, which were the large speakers. He said, now, if they burst, it's a hit. But he said if they don't, it's not a hit. So he cranked it up a little, and he started playing it. He got so into it. He jumped up on the console, the back of the console, and he started dancing crazy and screaming, and then, of course, they blew up.
You knew it was a hit. Okay, Tito, what did you think when I Want You Back became your first hit? You'd been on Steel Town in Gary, Indiana. You had a couple records, and finally, you hit the big time. What did you think, especially because your mother and your sister Rebbie didn't really like the record?
Well, I liked I Want You Back from day one. We had other records. I'm a big boy now with Steel Town Records in Gary, Indiana, but we had worked with Motown. And saying that they put together a brilliant first album for the brothers, I Want You Back, kicking it off into ABC. But we knew it would be a hit. We were so excited. I had a little transistor radio. We were living in Hollywood at the time. And I heard it come on the station. I'll never forget the station, KGFJ. And I ran down screaming, you know, it's on the radio, it's on the radio. So here's five brothers like this and screaming and excited. Because we knew with our first record, Big Boy, Steel Town Records was only so big. It was a local record company. And by being in the hands of Motown, we knew we're international. And it was a success.
And justifiably so. Great record. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. What is your fondest memory of Michael Jackson? And we'll start with you, Thomas.
A couple of months before the trial, my only sibling, my sister, became ill with cancer. She had a brain tumor and a lung tumor. She had the brain tumor removed. It looked very successful. We were hopeful. She left the hospital. She came home. There was a bouquet of flowers bigger than a door. And she said to herself, where did this come from? And there was a little poem from Michael wishing her well.
Fantastic. Susan.
Well, for me, it was 1 week before the verdict, and it was a few days before the closing argument. Michael looked at me and said, this is, before, we even found out what, he was going to be acquitted of all charges. He looked at me and said, Susie, he used to call me Susie all the time. Remember, we're spending 10, 12 hours a day, 5 months, 5 days a week. And he said, Susie, I just want to tell you how grateful I am to God and to my family for having found you and Tom. That was the best thing that ever happened to me. I just want to thank you so much for everything you've done. So I'll never forget that.
Fantastic. Tito?
Well, after the case in Santa Barbara, my brother and I and my mom rode together in the same vehicle, and he said, Tito, out of all these years, I've never done anything for you. I've never given you anything, and I have a present for you. I said, really, Michael? What is it? He said, I'll show you. So we pull up into Neverland, and we get out the car. And he said, come on, let me show you your present. And he said, there it is. We walked to the garage. He goes, there it is. And then in the garage was 2 Bentleys. And I said, what, Michael? I didn't think he was meaning the cars. I said, what? He said, the Bentleys. Choose one. You can have any one you want.
True story.
And I said, Michael, I don't want to take your car. He said, but I got 2 and I got 5 more. In that case, maybe I should consider. So anyhow, I said, well, Michael, they both are beautiful. I don't know which one to choose. I said, which one would you choose? He said, well, this is the one I drive all the time. And he said, but this one is newer. And I said, well, I don't know what to choose, Michael. You choose it for me. He said, well, Tito, to be honest, I would take this one. You take this one, the one I drive, because everyone who rode in this vehicle have signed the ceiling, and on the ceiling was Beyonce, Magic Johnson, Liza Minnelli. I'm sorry, David.
He would have to mention that name.
But everyone that was a friend of his had rode in his vehicle. And I have a vehicle now that I cherish that my brother gave me, and has all these beautiful signatures on the roof of the vehicle, including his own. And that was my fondest memory.
And this has been an emotional night. I can see you've been crying.
Yeah.
And you look so stunningly beautiful. Doesn't she, everybody? Let me hear, what was your fondest memory?
There's so many. I'm thinking in terms of many years ago, Michael, whenever he engaged on a project, he always would give it the utmost attention. And I'm thinking about this one time when he had this very special project, and he kept it a secret, but it was for the entire family. And what he proceeded to do was to collect as many pictures as he could of the family growing up. And he put them all together in a collage, and he had them framed, professionally done, and then he wrote inscriptions underneath them about what he expected in the future and how important family was. But what he did was open up a gallery, and he put it in the house over the garage, very professionally done. And then he had the entire family to come over, and he surprised us with us looking at that. And we saw ourselves from little tots all the way up to adults, and that was so precious to him. And it was such a beautiful gift, and I always think about that.
That's fantastic. You know, people ask me, you know, what do you remember about Michael? And one of the things is his laugh. Because the Jacksons all laugh like this. They do. They all have that they all have that laugh. And it was infectious. And Michael used to love to play practical jokes. And I remember one time I was gone to get some food because he was staying over at my house in Doheny. His brother Jackie lived in the building, and John Travolta lived in the building. Very happening building in the early 70s. And he took this crazy glue. And I sat down to eat the meal that I brought back, which was KFC, which he said was organic, which he said if you take off the skin, it's organic. But then he didn't take off the skin, so how organic could it have been? And I sat down, and I was attached to this chair until I had to take off my jeans, walk around in my boxer shorts, and try to chase him for doing that to me. And he just always liked to have fun. And people said, what was it like? A lot of the fans wrote in, to produce the 30th anniversary celebration, his last concert, which we owned. We were partners in a business called World Events LLC. And it was incredible to reunite the Jackson 5 after 17 and a half years. And I'll tell you how it started. I woke up one morning, I heard The Love You Save. How many remember that Jackson 5 record? Okay. That was my favorite as a kid. And I used to play it in the car, and Tito would go, would you change the tune? I go, no, I love it. And I heard it on the radio, and I said, I'm going to reunite them. And Michael said, oh, I don't want to do any concerts. And we went to San Francisco on a trip, convinced him to do it, and I'll never forget the first day of rehearsal, watching them perform all those great songs. There was a smile on my face, and he goes, you know what? I'm glad you made me do it. And I know he's smiling tonight, looking at us, and I hope you really enjoyed this film because all of us put our hearts and souls into it. And I want to thank Andrew Eastle, the director of this film. He's in the audience. Where are you? I know you're in here. Because this film would not have been made if it wasn't for this man. Where are you, Andrew? I know you're up there somewhere, but there he is. He put in 15 months, and he worked sometimes 12, 14, and 15 hours a day to give you a story, which I think tells who Michael Jackson really was and is. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, wait a second. I forgot the script here. We've got some very special stars who are in the film here. I'd like you to meet them. Please welcome the lady that gave you Dancing in the Streets, Jimmy Mack, the one and only Martha Reeves. The lady that sang It Takes Two with Marvin Gaye, also Helpless. Take Me in Your Arms, Rock Me, Miss Kim Weston. These are Motown legends. Let's hear it from them. The lady that sang When I'm Gone and Every Little Bit Hurts, one of Michael's favorites, Miss Brenda Holloway. And they're all in the film. A man who sang Beauty and the Beast, A Whole New World, Aladdin's Theme, sang with Roberta Flack, so 58 duets, the one and only Peabo Bryson. Peabo Bryson, ladies and gentlemen. This next man has had 24 hits in the UK, 5 number ones, 12 top 10 records, the lead singer of the Stylistics, the one and only Russell Tompkins Jr. They're all in the film you're about to see. And once again, thank you so much for coming. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for a fascinating insight just before we see this incredible film. What an amazing selection of talent we have here on the stage before you. Thank you, everyone. And it leaves me to say enjoy, people in the cinema here, and thank you very much for watching online, the world premiere of Michael Jackson, The Life of an Icon. Thank you, everyone.
Could we just introduce one other person, ladies and gentlemen, one other person, the lady who's from Gary, Indiana. She was away on tour when we filmed this. Miss Denise Williams is in the house. Denise, we love you. From Gary, Indiana, the woman who's saying, let's hear it for the boy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.